Rich Mitchell, Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. It is 11:06 on November 20th, 2023, and I'm going to call to order today's special meeting of the board. We are meeting in person this morning with commissioners, staff, and members of the public in attendance. We have a quorum with 5 commissioners present. Video of today's meeting is also being streamed live online, and the link to watch today's meeting is on the Housing Commission website at www.sdhc.org. Members of the public who wish to provide comments to the board will need to complete a speaker slip here in the boardroom and submit it to our Vice President of Communications, Scott Marshall, standing over here to the side of the boardroom. In a moment, we will be proposing that agenda items 100, 101, 102, 103, and 105 be placed on the consent agenda for today's meeting. Members of the public may provide comments about the items on the consent agenda by submitting a speaker's request form for that item before the board considers the consent agenda. I have several forms here that have already been submitted. To speak in favor of any item on today's agenda, please submit the gold-colored form. To speak in opposition to any agenda, please submit the pink-colored form. And those who wish to address the board about a topic that is not on the agenda should fill out a white speaker request form. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments about agenda items or non-agenda public comments. However, if a large number of people wish to provide non-agenda public comments or speak on a single agenda item, comments will be limited to 1 minute each. Collective testimony by those who support or oppose an item shall be limited to no more than 15 minutes total per side. When I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and begin making your comments. And now is the time for the non-agenda public comment, and I have one non-agenda public comment, and that is Joy Senyata. Joy, no problem. You know, I appreciate the fact that I get your time, and I don't want you to ever say he was holding me up. So the floor is yours.
No, and I appreciate your time. I don't want to hold all of you up, but you could maybe slow down on the consent items.
Okay, that's fair. I'm going to note that.
I prepare for some of those.
You do.
I prepared for 104, I think.
Okay.
The $45 million deal.
Yep.
But that's gone, right?
No, that's still on.
Consent?
That's still on.
Okay. Sorry about that. Anyway, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Joy Senyata, District 3. First of all, I want to say for 2023, thank you. Thank you for everything you did. Thank you for hanging in there, showing up, doing everything you do. And thank you to the entire San Diego Housing Commission, and that Mr. Davis, he's been very, very excellent. So I appreciate you so much, and thank you for your patience. And I don't think Wendy DeWitt's here, but I consider her, I don't think she likes this, but I consider her the preservation czar. And I want to thank her for her presentation at the city council committee meeting the other day on the preservation ordinance, and the whole team her whole team. So it's just so exciting to see that moving forward. A little slow, but it is. So 3 items for the new year for you to put, forget about it during the holidays. But number 1, remember the strategic plan, which came, I think it was in October, and we continued it or, removed it. I'm so glad you did remove it, Chair, because I think it needs a lot of work. And one of the things I want you to consider is revisiting the vision statement. I think the vision statement needs maybe more aspiration. The mission statement is good. But I think the vision statement needs to be reworking, and maybe with the CE, the new president and so forth coming in, it would be a great time to do that. I love the word thrive, and that's in the mission statement. So maybe that can be refigured into the vision statement. And then Article 34. I'm not going to go into that because it's new to me. I haven't really looked at it yet. But Councilmember Campbell brought it up at a meeting, and it really wasn't discussed. But it's with the state of California, and it has to do with some sort of threshold on housing, and it's very old. It's a very old archive thing, but it's still alive and well. So I think there's a movement to look at it now on a lot of levels. So I'm going to put that out there for you. I think you're aware of it. And then number 3, I've been looking at the word affordable housing. And I think we need to rework affordable and what it is. So I don't know what to do with it, but I think there's a way to refigure it and do something different with it. So happy holidays. It's the last meeting of the 2023, and I wish you blessings and love to all of your family, and thank you again.
Thank you, Joy. We always appreciate hearing from you, and we will. I did make a note of your comment about the vision statement. So, and I also made another note about. I'll slow down. So, Jennifer and Colin, you're going to have to play words with friends with me so we can give people extra time. So, you guys just need to prepare. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I don't have any further comments on the non-agenda public or the consent agenda. Commissioners, now is the time for you. If you have any comments that you'd like to make, please do so.
Can I ask Lisa?
Lisa's at least sitting in the front row today.
We're just catching everybody off guard this morning.
Yeah, right.
I gave up hiding in the back. It didn't work last time. Okay, so for coordinated intake referrals for the month of October, there were 2,056 referrals, so down from the previous month, but still a high number of people looking for shelter. 396 complete referrals, so a 19% completion rate. For fiscal year to date, we have seen just over 7,500 referrals and just under 6,000 incomplete, with a 1,602 complete referrals, a 21% completion rate. Shelters as usual are
What was the percentage?
21% completion rate to date for the fiscal year since July, and shelters are running at anywhere between 97 to 98% occupancy.
Thank you very much for a monthly reminder that we have a shortage of shelter capacity relative to how many people are seeking shelter. Thank you.
Any further comments from commissioners? I will just make a couple as it relates to Joyce and Yada's comment about the vision statement. I do agree that as a body, this is a fantastic group of people that have been assembled to have this conversation. This discussion that we're having these days about housing isn't just about affordable housing. What we're now getting into is housing for the workforce, and there are different levels of the workforce. Housing for the people who are unsheltered and families that are unsheltered. And so, Joy, your comment was well received by me. And I will also make the comment that I always appreciate when Vice Chair Klumner asks Lisa to come up and give us the percentages each month. It is a reminder that we have a long ways to go to truly address this crisis. And it's also important to note at this moment for my fellow commissioners, you're starting to hear more concerns and complaints about opportunities. The barracks project that is being proposed at NTC. It is actually ironic that there are people leading the charge against this. We're being asked to create opportunities to get people off the streets, and there are those who want those opportunities as long as they are nowhere near them. And that's the sad part of this, is that this is a crisis that is impacting families, individuals, all ages, but seniors are the fastest growing group. And you have an opportunity on a piece of property that the city is looking at to provide shelter and provide comfort and support to a large number of individuals. And so I just remind us all that in the face of the opposition, we always have to remember that it's important that we do what's right and what's best. So for those paying attention to this issue, I think it's a worthy discussion, finding the right sites and the right providers, because as you heard Lisa say, our completion rate for the year is 21%, and that is just not good enough. So, all right, seeing no further comments, seeing none, I would ask that we'll wait and do we need to do a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion. Second by Tony. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. Next, we will go to the report from the interim president and CEO, Jeff Davis. Jeff, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. I have a few brief updates to share with you this morning. About 3 weeks ago, Vice Chair Klumpner represented the Housing Commission at the celebration of the grand opening of 64 affordable rental apartments for families that experience homelessness. Rents at Malejo Village development in San Ysidro are required to remain affordable for the next 55 years for families with extremely low income. The Housing Commission awarded 64 rental housing vouchers to this development to help residents pay their rent and remain stably housed. We also supported the development with $4.2 million that consisted of local, state, and federal funds that the Housing Commission administers. Malejo Village was developed by Jamboree Housing Corporation. One of the new residents at this property, Emily, said she and her children had lived on the streets, in motels, and in different homeless shelters. But now they have a home of their own at Malejo Village. And she is so happy that she can read to her children every night, help them with their homework, make them breakfast every morning, and walk them to school. She said they found a brighter future. On October 26, Councilmember LaCava and our Executive Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, Lisa Jones, participated in a homelessness summit organized by California State Senator Catherine Blakespear. The summit featured 3 panels with discussions about a range of subjects related to addressing homelessness throughout California and in the San Diego County region. The discussions included homelessness prevention efforts and focusing on populations known to be at risk. Also understanding that people experiencing homelessness are our neighbors, our seniors, college students, veterans, and others who are part of our community. Ensuring that community engagement about affordable housing developments and housing for people who experience homelessness continue after the development is completed. And also the potential for public-private partnerships with employers and commercial developers to assist with the creation of workforce housing. Discussions like these are important to ongoing efforts to identify and implement solutions. Thank you to Senator Blakespear for organizing the event and to everyone who participated. Last week, we published the Housing Commission's Fiscal Year 2023 Annual Report. The report is available on our website at www.sdhc.org. Our annual report provides comprehensive information about our programs, our initiatives throughout the fiscal year, and it's done in a variety of formats. It includes narrative descriptions, data and graphics, tables, financial details in our statement of net positions, photos, and quite a few videos. Through the many videos embedded in the report, we have the privilege of sharing stories of individuals and families that our program assisted during the year in their own words. The Housing Instability Prevention Program is just one of the initiatives featured in this year's report. One of the people the program assisted is a senior named Terry. And we have a short video that we'd like to share with you about her story.
The HIP program is a dream. It's allowing you to hope that the dream that you want to create the life that you want for yourself is a reality. I've been on disability and I had to move in with friends. I got involved in a homeless program through PATH, which is another agency. They were able to help me until I got my SDI, and at that point I was able to find this apartment. However, I still did not have enough money. So when I heard about this, I was like, I may not get it, but I'm sure going to try. I was accepted in April 1st, and I was on my way to physical therapy, and I literally told a woman that I'm going to scream, and I sat down in the hallway of the physical therapy place and just cried. You know, it's just one of those things where you go, you're fighting for so long just to make ends meet. It was like I was doing the best to keep everything down, but I could not afford food. This program, the cloud definitely gets lifted. I don't even feel it sometimes, you know. I feel every day is a new day to be, great.
So Terry is one of 208 people enrolled in the Housing Instability Prevention Program, and we have another 60 pending review of their eligibility. 57% of the head of households enrolled in the program are age 55 or older. On average, enrolled households were spending 72% of their income on rent before the program began assisting them. With the program's assistance, households are now spending an average of 42% of their income on housing. The San Diego City Council allocated funds to make this program possible to assist families in need. And that concludes my report. Staff and I are available for any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. And again, I think anybody that has a chance to look at the year's results should do that, and the entire staff should be proud. As we were here at the last meeting of the year, the entire team should be proud of what you've accomplished this year. It's not easy, but you're doing it all with a smile, and you're doing a hell of a job. Next up is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 13th, 2023. Actually, we have one additional speaker slip that has been submitted before we get to that, and that is Imani Robinson. You have submitted a non-agenda public comment item, so please, the floor is yours.
I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to speak. I was late this morning. I appreciate you giving me this time. At the last meeting that I attended, there wasn't a really big issue with my housing. And because I attended this meeting, I'd like to really give a huge thanks to Aime, Cerna, and especially Ann McGuire. Someone from your office or from the housing office contacted her, and she walked everyone through everything. And today would actually be my court date, where it would not have been a good situation, but because of my attendance, I'm okay. I have reestablished a contract with my renter, and I was even able to negotiate some maintenance, and that was really good. But I was just thinking, and why I came here, because I wanted to say that the situation was definitely turned around in my favor. But the scary part is, what if I didn't attend this meeting? And so it's also thinking about the other members that are or the participants in this program that doesn't have the foresight to come to this meeting. So I just want you just to consider that kind of turning, and to say this is of course a task that is beyond simplicity, where I'm asking to flip the narrative of getting the housing first, and then focusing on the 10 years of stability, and that they can move on to the program. And I'd also like to say, I have a son that he's an adult now, but he was diagnosed bipolar 16, going to a private school, a lot of pressure. And I want everyone to know that mental health is a oppression and a racist and a discriminatory issue. It's not just a mental issue. It is, and for that, he's struggling, and that allowed me to actually get my rent reduced. But he's an adult, and so if I grow my income, and he's an adult and wants to live on his own, he would have to get on the program and wait 10 years. So that doesn't really, it just doesn't sound accurate. And so I just really want you to focus on adult with disabilities that can really benefit from the program, that were actually on the program as children. So just something to consider. So thank you for your time. And I just really want you to consider the other adults that had to go through what I did. But thank you for your other staff members that definitely assisted me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Imani, for coming down today, and we were all here. We remember when you spoke. I think I speak for everyone that we're all thrilled that it worked out. And one of the things that I will also acknowledge is that we are discussing internally ways to get the word out more about how we can be more helpful. I want to commend Lisa Jones. Lisa's been out and about of late on the circuit, and everybody calls me afterwards and says she is fantastic. Jeff Davis and I have talked, and Susie is not in here, but Susie and I had this conversation as well. We're going to try and establish a community-based organization structure where we can get the word out about how we can help better. It's easy to fall into the trap of, well, if they just go on the website, they'll figure it out. One of the things we learned during COVID is that not everybody has internet access, A, and B, when people are navigating homelessness for the first time, most people don't know where to turn or where to look. And so there are things that we can definitely do better, and those are conversations we're having today. And I've had a few conversations with people like Alan Nash and members of the Latino community, and even the other day, Dr. John Warren, about how we can be better about being better messengers. And so you will see some improvement in that area.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you
so
very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Okay, we will move back to the regular agenda, and before I do that, I want to say thank you to the staff for addressing that matter at the last meeting. Obviously, it's a good ending. So we'll go back to the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of October 13th, 2023. No speaker slips have been submitted on the minutes. So do I have a motion and a second by the commissioners? Motion by Tony. Second by Commissioner Vasquez. All right, and no further questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. We have already addressed the consent agenda and addressed the speaker slips on that. So that concludes the this portion of the agenda. So we will now go immediately to item 104, which is a resolution to accept an award of $45 million from the state's infill infrastructure grant catalytic qualifying infill area program. That is in dire need of an acronym. We repeat that: the state's infill infrastructure grant catalytic qualifying infill area program. And we will take public comments after the staff presentation, but obviously sitting at the mic, ready to present, our Senior Vice President of Housing, Finance, and Property Management, Colin Miller, and he is joined by Jennifer Croyder. You both have the floor now.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair Mitchell, Commissioners, Mr. Davis, and Mr. Christensen. The item before you this morning is the resolution to accept an award of $45 million from the State of California's Housing and Community Development Infill Infrastructure Grant Catalytic Qualifying Infill Area Program, or IIGC. I want to provide the board with a background on this grant, as it was last heard by the board in March of this year. The California Department of Housing and Community Development put forth the Infill Infrastructure Grant Catalytic, or IIGC, that made $105 million in grants available statewide to assist in the creation of affordable housing units. The $105 million was divided among large and small jurisdictions in the amounts of $90 million and $15 million respectively. San Diego falls into the large jurisdiction category. We applied for and were awarded the full or the maximum amount of $45 million in August. HCD's competitive selection process took a two-phased approach. The Housing Commission staff responded to HCD's initial demand survey at the end of January, and we were later invited to apply to HCD's second phase. Staff worked with National Corps and Casa Familiar on their Transforming and Advancing South County Transit Communities Development in Council District 8, that when completed will provide 583 affordable units to individuals and families with incomes ranging from 30 to 80% of area median income. Staff also worked with the Michaels organization to submit the 1350 Front Street East and West projects in Council District 5. These projects propose two 40-story towers on a former state-owned site in downtown that will produce over 1,000 total units, 631 of which will be affordable to individuals and families with incomes ranging from 50 to 120% of area median income, with market rate units comprising the balance of the development. The timeline for approval and acceptance of this grant is shown on this slide. Should the item be approved today, staff intend to present this item at the December 12th Housing Authority meeting. Further, staff recommends that the board take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the following slides. I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Colin. All right, commissioners, any questions about this fantastic announcement? Commissioner Vasquez, your mic, please.
Yes, I'm used to seeing maps that show how close these locations are to schools and grocery stores, public transportation. I get that they're downtown, but I'm not quite familiar with the streets the way.
Sure, 1350, and apologies for not providing that. This is simply for the approval of the grant. We are a pass-through for HCD. We're not actually, these funds are not coming to the Housing Commission. They come to us and go immediately to the developer. So we didn't provide this in the usual format that you see with a bond or a loan program.
Okay.
1350 East Front Street is the old courthouse in downtown, and the Casa Familiar project is down in San Ysidro,
Okay.
along the it's at the Palm Avenue trolley stop.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
It's at Ash and Front, basically. Is that the old state building?
It's the old courthouse.
It's the old courthouse building, yeah. Okay. Any further questions, comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to formally accept this grant. Oh, I apologize. You're right. Joy, my apologies. You told me to slow down, and I forgot to look at the speaker slips, right? Joy Senyata, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Joy Senyata, District 3. Thank you for the presentation. I don't know if you ever hear me speaking at City Council. I speak often. I love grants. And I toot my horn for grants often at City Council because I still think we don't use them enough. We don't go after them enough. So $45 million grant for, this affordable housing. Thank you so much. It's just absolutely fabulous. And you answered two of my questions. The only question I had that I was a little confused by how the flow of money came through the budget system. So it wasn't in the, hope I say this right, it wasn't in the FY24 budget. It got approved by HA, and then I don't know how those funds flow. So I know, though, you know how to do it. It's just that I would like to have a little clarity on that. Now, there's a working group that's been formed. This comes from Councilmember Moreno's, who also loves grants. And she's asked the commission, I believe, to do the working group on what is the competitive nature of grants. And I'm so excited about this working group. Thank you for whoever's on it. If you haven't formed it yet, let's do it. And then one more thing from the strategic plan, loved increasing and preserving housing solutions. So that's that love to all. Thank you, Chair Mitchell.
Thank you, Joy. Appreciate it. And Colin, I think it's just money that the state puts into the fund.
Yeah, that's correct. So the way the funds will flow, this is similar to a $5 million grant we were awarded a little over a year ago from HCD as well. The funds go from HCD, they flow through us and go directly to the developer. So the developer submits a draw to the Housing Commission. Staff process that draw, request the funds from HCD, and HCD cuts the check. So these are not part of our FY24 budget in that sense.
Thank you for that clarification. All right. We don't have any further speaker slips. Are there commissioner comments or motion?
Quick comment. This seems just like a fantastic program, and I was doing some quick math on what this comes out to per new deed restricted unit, and it's basically less than $40,000 per unit is what this grant is. It's kind of right there in the name. This is catalyzing development, where this is the last little piece that we need to make these work, I assume, and this is just a huge amount of housing that we're getting into this grant. Seems like money well spent, and very exciting to have all these sites in the works. So I'd be happy to make the motion.
All right. We have a motion by Vice Chair Klempner. Okay, second by Keeley. Thank you very much. Any further comments, questions? Keeley, she's the second. No questions? Okay. All right. No further comments, questions. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries unanimously. And we move immediately to item 106. Jennifer? This is the final bond authorization and tax equity and fiscal responsibility act resolution for Casa Nueva. We'll take public comments after the staff presentation. Jennifer, the floor is yours. Start when ready.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chair Mitchell and Commissioners. The item before you today is a request to approve the final steps to issue tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds for the acquisition and rehabilitation of Casa Nueva, formerly known as Hacienda Townhomes. Casa Nueva is the proposed acquisition and rehabilitation of a 52-unit project, which is made up of 51 affordable units and 1 unrestricted manager unit. The project is located at 350 17th Street in downtown San Diego, Council District 3. The project's 51 affordable units are 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. The units will be for households with income levels from 30 to 60% of area median income for 55 years. This equates to income levels of $33,100 a year for a 2-person household to $82,680 a year for a 4-person household. Due to the location being in downtown San Diego, there are several transit options nearby, with the closest trolley station being 0.3 miles from the site and the closest bus stop being 0.2 miles. The developer, San Diego Community Housing Corporation, SDHC, is an experienced community-based nonprofit developer. With respect to the proposed development, a Housing Commission forgivable loan of up to $2.2 million was awarded and subsequently approved by the Housing Commission Board earlier this year on April 6th. In addition to a loan, they were also awarded 19 federal project-based vouchers from the Housing Commission for the development. Additionally, in 1992, the Housing Commission entered into a residual receipts loan, which is currently valued at approximately $3.2 million. This loan's current 55-year term will reset and be in line with the bond's regulatory agreement and the Housing Commission's forgivable loan agreement's terms. SDHC will continue to be the lead service provider, and Urban League will continue to provide financial literacy classes and services. This slide shows a site map of the development and the proximity to transit, schools, and grocery stores. The closest trolley station is 0.3 miles from the site, while the closest school is less than 3/4 miles away, and the closest grocery store is less than a half mile. Total development cost of the project will be $27.9 million, which equates to a per unit cost of $536,000. Notable sources of funding include a permanent loan, loans from the Housing Commission in the City of San Diego, a seller carryback note, a deferred developer fee, and tax credits. Units will be restricted at 30 to 60% of area median income for 55 years. Rents will range from $732 to $2,150 per month. Should this be approved today, staff will present to the Housing Authority for approval on December 12, 2023. The developer would then close construction financing by January 2024 and begin construction shortly thereafter, with an anticipated completion date in January 2025. Here's a current picture of the exterior of the building. And here's a current picture of the courtyard. To summarize the developer's request, you are considering approvals to take the final steps to issue up to nearly $13 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds. Bond issuance will not create a financial liability to the Housing Commission, Housing Authority, nor the city. Neither the full faith and credit nor taxing power of the city, nor full faith and credit of the Housing Authority will be a pledge to the payment of the bonds. Staff recommends that the board take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the following slides. This concludes the presentation. Colin and I, along with representatives from the developer, are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, we have a speaker slip on this item. Joyce Sunyata, item 106.
Thank you so much. Joyce Sunyata, District 3. You know, I love the TEFRA hearings, and I absolutely feel obligated to say something. And these two people right here, they're fabulous, and they're absolutely just, I want them to be my BFFs, best friends forever. So, hey, let's toot the horn for District 3. District 3 is where I live. We're about density on housing. So give us 5 stars, will you? So this is a beautiful project. and acquisition and rehabilitation, 51 units, 55 years, 30 to 60 AMI, 13 million sounds good to me. I love the 2 tot lots. I love the sound of that. And who doesn't love a little toddler? So that was really great that they're going to have those. And a few years back, it's too long a story, but I learned about forgivable loans. Thank you for that new forgivable loan. And on the estimated permanent sources and uses, 10 on the list. Thank you to everybody that's on that list, and how you make that happen, I have no idea. Love to all.
Thank you, Joy. All right, no further speaker slips. Commissioners, thoughts, comments, questions?
It's great to see rehab projects. I don't think I'm imagining this, but there's been a real slowdown in those, and I think we've seen a couple recently, so it's great to see rehab projects coming back around. I'm going to echo what Joy said, the tot lots, and then also, I just want to give a shout out to the financial literacy program that's being offered on site by the Urban League. That just seems like such a great thing to have in this context, and when we pair it with seeing the tot lots, it's just a wonderful thing to try to be tackling intergenerational poverty in these settings as well. Frankly, I wish I had had access to financial literacy classes when I was younger. So it's just such a glaring gap in our public education system and society in general. So great job to everybody who thought to have that available on site as one of the programs. Wonderful project. Thank you.
Any further comments?
I was just wondering for the cost in order to continue it for additional 50 years, why it was so costly per unit in comparison to our other units.
So are you, just to clarify your question, are you asking about the total development cost or the operating expenses on an annual basis?
Excellent point of clarification. I'm asking because of the it's $31 million is the total cost, and then for 55 units, that is about approximately $563,000 per unit.
Yeah, so the $536,000 per unit, when you look at the, if we can pull that slide. Sorry, we have a number of slides to click through. Okay. So one of the things you'll notice, the acquisition cost of $11 million, this is being done to generate equity. And so the owner of the property is selling it to a related party as part of the partnership. By including that acquisition cost in the development, they are able to generate equity through the tax credit program. So in theory, I understand your point that it looks like it's expensive, but by adding that $11 million into the deal, yes, your TDC, total development cost goes from what would be $16 million up to $27 million. But that $11 million is generating a substantial amount of tax credit equity, which if you look on the slide, the very last line, $9.8 million, that's over 30% of the capital coming into this project. So if the developer were to simply give the project to their LP affiliate and have zero for acquisition cost, the total development cost would go down, to your point, but they would generate a lot less equity, and it would be harder for them to get the deal done. As the last speaker mentioned, we have 10 different sources of funding. They would need to fill that gap in some way, and so they would be they have to go to another source of funding to fill that gap. So I understand your point about how it looks like it's expensive. What they're doing is actually cost effective, and it's a good way to get the deal done. I hope that answers the question.
All right, Commissioner Vasquez, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Robert. I will echo that one thing that the Vice Chair Klumpner mentioned. I love the comprehensive projects. When it has a little bit of everything. And hopefully one of the things that this organization has to begin to think about is, how we ensure that you have this kind of wraparound service element at, financial literacy. One of the things I've noted during the '08 crisis and today is that the people navigating that are struggling often don't know all the things that are available on top of financial literacy. So I think that's important. And the last thing I'll mention is projects like this, as the vice chair mentioned, we've seen a reduction in rehabs. At a time when San Diego has recently been named the most expensive city in the country, these rehab projects become incredibly important. So hopefully we'll continue to see them happen, and we won't see a further degradation of the number.
Yeah, and Commissioner, I can speak to that briefly. The reason we've seen a reduction in the number of acquisition rehab projects, the State of California, the California Debt Limit Allocation Committee, and the Tax Credit Allocation Committee have prioritized new construction. And so private activity bonds for 4% deals, at one point it was 99% of that allocation was going towards new construction and 1% towards rehab. They have since adjusted that, so 5% of that total allocation statewide is going to acquisition rehab projects. So as the percentage of private activity bonds gets reallocated to acquisition rehab projects, we'll see more.
That's wonderful.
But it is extremely difficult for developers like this one to obtain those credits.
Sure. Okay. But the state has made that change.
That's correct.
That is excellent. That's good news. All right. Any further comments, questions? All right. I'll entertain a motion. So motion by Vice Chair Klempner. Second by Commissioner Vasquez. I know who you are, Commissioner Vasquez, by the way. I'm Mitch Mitchell. It's nice to meet you. All right. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The measure passes, and good job. All right. We'll move now to item 107. And this is the final bond authorization. No. Yes. Because Joy had spoke on 106. Yes, this is 107, I think. Correct. All right. The floor, this will be the final bond authorization and tax equity and fiscal responsibility act resolution for the 8th Avenue family housing. Jennifer, I believe the floor is yours still on this one.
All right. The item before you today is a request to approve the final steps to issue tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds for the construction of 8th Avenue Family Housing. 8th Avenue Family Housing is the proposed construction of an 80-unit project, which is made up of 79 affordable units and 1 unrestricted manager unit. The project is to be located at 3927 to 37.5 8th Avenue in the Hillcrest Neighborhood, Council District 3. The proposed project's 79 affordable units be studio, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. All units be for households with income levels from 30 to 50% of area median income for 55 years. This equates to income levels of $28,950 a year for a one-person household to $66,900 a year for a four-person household. The site is currently improved with 1 building consisting of 45 single-room occupancy SRO units, a 2-bedroom house, and a 1-bedroom unit above a detached garage. All these sites are currently vacant. This development will satisfy the affordable housing requirements for 2 nearby market rate properties. In return for the affordable units, the market rate developers are providing capital funds and donating the land for the project. The developer of the project is Rise Urban Partners, LLC. They have successfully worked on previous developments with SDHC's multifamily housing revenue bond program and are currently in compliance with those projects. Site amenities will include a community room, laundry room, and an outdoor courtyard area. Services for the tenants will be provided by Pacific Southwest Community Development Corporation and will include health and skill building classes as well as after-school classes. This slide shows a site map of the development and the proximity to transit, schools, and grocery stores. The closest bus stop is less than 0.1 miles from the site, while the closest school is half a mile away and the closest grocery store is 0.1 miles away. The total development cost of the project will be $42.3 million, which equates to a per unit cost of approximately $529,000. Notable sources of funding include a bond finance loan and 4% tax credits, a subordinate loan from National Housing Corporation, and a deferred developer fee. No Housing Commission loan funds are proposed for this development. Units were restricted at 30 to 50% of area median income for 55 years. Rent will range from $683 to $1,791 a month. Should this be approved today, staff will present to the Housing Authority for approval on December 12, 2023. The developer would then close construction financing in January 2024 and begin construction shortly thereafter with an anticipated completion date in August 2025. Here's an architect's rendering of the proposed project. To summarize the developer's request, you are considering approvals to take the final steps to issue up to $21.6 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing remedy bonds. Bond issuance will not create a financial liability to the Housing Commission, Housing Authority, nor the city. Neither the full faith and credit nor taxing power of the city, nor full faith and credit of the Housing Authority will be pledged for payment of the bonds. Staff recommends that the board take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the following slides. This concludes the presentation. Colin and I, along with representatives from the developer, are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, I noticed that we have one speaker slip for item 107. That is Joyce Nyata.
Thank you, Chair. Joyce Nyata, District 3. So here we go, another TEFRA. Thank you so much for all you've done. A new development for families. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Thank you for that. Just a few things, 79 units for 55 years, 30 to 50% AMI, 22 million sounds great. Cost per unit, about 528,000. That's a reasonable range these days, can you believe it? And the last item, too, had a good cost per unit on it, too. So I do want to conclude by telling all of you, I love the beginning executive summary on this stuff. It's just, it gets 5 stars, so thank you for that. And thank you for this other TEFRA. Love to all.
Thank you, Joy, for your comments. Commissioners, comments on this project? All right.
I think I'll say probably the same thing I said the first time this came around, which is that this has been used as an SRO historically, right? And so I just want to kind of point out, since SROs and the history of SROs is a big public discussion here, that this is basically an ideal outcome for what happens with aging SRO buildings that have historically provided naturally occurring affordable housing, but that it is just simply not sustainable for us to assume that we can just freeze them in time as they have been used historically. Buildings age, they fall apart, their maintenance costs go up, the market changes around them, and so I really like seeing positive outcomes in which prior residents are given opportunities to return, and the site continues to serve the same type of population, but in this case will serve many, many more people than the Friendship Hotel was able to serve during its long history where it was functioning in that way. So with that said, I'd be happy to make a motion on this as well, unless anybody else wants to.
All right. No further comments. We have a motion. Second by Commissioner Jackson. Again, I will just say that it is funny that we look at 500,000 plus per key and we go, whew. But that's the point we've reached in San Diego. For my fellow commissioners, you remember we had a couple projects that were in the 900 range recently. So 500 is a much better number. So, all right, no further comments, questions. So we have a motion and a second by Commissioner Jackson. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you. Thank you very much for your time today. All right, Commissioners, next up are the next 2 items are tied to home key, and I know that Emily and Buddy are making their way to the mic to present. The first one is the authorization to accept and expend state home key funds and the City of San Diego and county funds to amend the Housing Commission's fiscal year 2024 budget to acquire the Ramada Inn property at 3737 to 3747 Midway Drive, which will be known as, going forward, Pacific Village. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. Executive Vice President of Real Estate Emily Jacobs and Vice President of Real Estate Finance and Acquisitions Buddy Bohr will present this item. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Chair, Commissioners, the exciting item before you today is a request to authorize the Housing Commission to acquire the Ramada Inn utilizing Home Key, City of San Diego, and County of San Diego funds. Next slide. The Home Key program has made now over $800 million available statewide in this round of funding through a Notice of Funding Availability, or NOFA, issued on March 29th. Of this amount, and breaking news, due to recent amendment to the NOFA, $41.1 million is set aside for the San Diego region's local geographic pool. The San Diego region may also apply in the competitive statewide pool for funds, and for Joy's benefit, this is grant funds. The project is awarded $20.75 million, and that is combined with Ramada Inn and the Abbott Street apartment project. Next slide. In July of last year, the board authorized the Housing Commission to execute a purchase and sale agreement to acquire the Ramada Inn property. Then in May of this year, the board authorized the Housing Commission to apply for state Home Key program funds for the proposed acquisition and rehabilitation of the property. Next slide. For Ramada Inn, the state has awarded $16.85 million for the Housing Commission's proposed purchase and rehabilitation of the property. To assist future residents in paying rent, the Housing Commission has committed 62 project-based housing vouchers. 15 of these will be Veteran Affairs Supportive Housing, or VASH vouchers, for veterans experiencing homelessness. Home Key program requirements for the project include that all funds be spent in 8 months of award, all construction and rehabilitation be completed within 12 months of award, and full occupancy achieved in 15 months. Next slide. This slide shows the Ramada Inn property. You recall it's 3737 to 3747 Midway Drive in the Midway Sports Arena area in Council District 2. The hotel currently consists of 64 rooms in a 2-story garden walk-up building with a lobby area and small laundry area. After rehabilitation is complete, the property will consist of 62 permanent affordable rental housing units with supportive services for people experiencing homelessness, 1 unrestricted manager's unit, and 1 unrestricted unit designated to serve as space for service providers. Next slide. The purchase and sale agreement the board approved last year was necessary for the Housing Commission to complete due diligence on the property. Due diligence activities have completed to date, and they include but are not limited to an appraisal, a peer review of the appraisal, and the County of San Diego review of the appraisal, a physical needs assessment, hazardous material testing, Phase 1 environmental site assessment, pest inspection, sewer line inspection, and zoning conformance. Findings from due diligence are summarized in the staff report.
So this table identifies the sources and uses of the funds proposed for the acquisition and rehabilitation of the project. In addition to the state Home Key funds of $16,850,000, the city and the county will each be contributing $5,921,281 each, for a total of $28,692,562. Uses of these funds are outlined here as well. They include the acquisition costs and other soft costs and hard costs to complete the renovation, including the appropriate reserves. The estimated total development cost per unit for the acquisition and rehabilitation of this property is $455,438. Once the renovations are complete, the residents will be identified through referrals from the coordinated entry system. Residents will have access to a variety of supportive services as shown on this slide. Services will include mental health and behavioral health services, care coordination, and substance abuse services. Residents will be people experiencing literal homelessness, chronic homelessness, and transition-aged youth. Of the residents who experience literal or chronic homelessness, 15 will be veterans. The Ramada Inn property is very close to several amenities, including the following: a Vaughn's Supermarket, which is 0.2 of a mile away, Kaiser Point Loma Hospital and Pharmacy, which is 0.4 of a mile away, and several bus stops within feet of the property. The Housing Commission has a fully executed purchase and sale agreement for the Ramada Inn property. The standard agreement with the State Housing and Community Development Department regarding the home key funds is expected to be executed in December of this year. Close of escrow is scheduled for January 25th, 2024. Construction and rehabilitation will take place immediately following the closing, from February through September of 2024. Residents will begin moving in approximately in October of 2024. So we have a change to our staff recommended actions today that will eliminate the need to forward recommendations to the Housing Authority. The Housing Commission Board's action will be final unless 2 members of the Housing Authority ask to hear the matter. In addition, the resolution that will be prepared will be in the form and format required by the state's Housing and Community Development Department. Staff has consulted with legal counsel and confirmed that Housing Authority Resolution HA 1569, which the Housing Authority passed in 2012, authorizes the Housing Commission Board to decide whether or not to accept and expend the grant funds described in this report and amend the Housing Commission's fiscal year 2024 budget to include grant funds as described in this report without further action by the Housing Authority. The Housing Commission's policy for the acquisition and purchase of real estate further authorizes this board to decide whether to approve property acquisitions, including the proposed purchase of the Ramada Inn property. The Housing Authority most recently reviewed and approved that policy in December 2016. San Diego Municipal Code also does not require the actions proposed in the staff report before you today to be presented to the Housing Authority. If the board approves the staff recommended actions today, the Housing Authority members will have 7 days in which to ask to review the board action. If 2 or more Housing Authority members ask for review, this item would be presented to the Housing Authority. However, if the Housing Authority does not ask for the review of this item, the board's actions would be final in 7 days. If the board approves the staff recommended actions, staff and council will prepare a Housing Commission Board resolution that complies with state home key program requirements and that reflects the board's approval. With this in mind, staff recommends that the board take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the next 5 slides instead of recommending the Housing Authority action on this item.
All right. Thank you, Emily and Buddy. Commissioners, we have one speaker slip, item 108, that is Joyce Nyada. Joy.
Thank you. Chair, I'm going to take 15 seconds off point. Commissioner Klumpner, thank you so much for your statement on the SROs. At some point, I will share with you my personal wonderful story about SRO. So thank you so much on that. I really appreciate that. So I'm combining 108 and 109, Chair. Is that okay?
That is fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to I'm going to make just one statement. Oh, before I do, to the presenters, thank you for spelling out that policy stuff. That really is important, and I really appreciate you doing that. So thank you, Emily and team. And the entire team and all involved on all home key projects. This is an important key to open the door to the real solution to our housing crisis. So thanks everybody for listening. This is my last point today and last time of 2023 to talk with you. So love you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. All right, Commissioners, item 108 up for discussion. Comments, questions?
Thank you both for all the work that you've done on this. I think we're all very aware that home key has not been a simple, easy to navigate process. It is a competitive process. It has deadlines. It involves complex real estate negotiations. It is a challenge, and thank you both for all the work that you've put into it. I want to kind of jump right in on a few points. First, I did read the appraisal and the summary of it as well. Obviously, it's great to see when the price that we've negotiated, it ends up being lower than the appraised value. I do, however, want to say that even if that were not the case, we, I think, have to look at this in a non-traditional way, because the reality is that we are comparing permanent supportive housing to permanent supportive housing. And we have seen lots of permanent supportive housing that is new construction come before us. And the value here is substantial in terms of this is essentially the cheapest permanent supportive housing that we ever have access to is through this program. And so even if the appraisal had come back and said that it was appraised for lower than what we were paying, from my perspective, we need to compare it not to what the market for this property is, but to what else it costs us to generate the equivalent housing somewhere else. And secondly, the populations this is serving, I just wanted to point out to everybody that 25%, the targets, I believe, are 25% is for people who are chronically homeless, another 25% are for transitional age youth, both of which are extremely difficult populations for us to serve because of the lack of housing resources available. And we see this and hear this constantly when we're dealing with our homeless service contracts and our shelters, and when we're looking at the monthly numbers about how many people are exiting shelters into housing. Our greatest challenge with these populations is having places for them to go. And with the TAY especially, that really needs to be a focus, and I'm happy to see space made for them, because we know that once people fall into homelessness, their chances of it occurring again in their life go up dramatically. And so one of the best things that we can do is provide this early intervention for people who are transitioning out of foster care or other situations and need some assistance. And then lastly, I just want to point out what an exceptional location this is. This is close to many resources. Anybody who's aware of this, there's all kinds of grocery options, food options, transit options nearby. Obviously, we would always like more transit than we have in San Diego, but it's not bad. In particular, too, I just did a little quick refresher on the history here. And 77 years ago, the federal government invested in 15,000 workforce housing 15,000 workers. This was in the middle of World War II in the Midway, in this area. It was a very productive place that lower income and workforce families could live, and that was subsequently destroyed for many decades. And so this site seems like an ideal location, both from the standpoint of the amenities that it provides the people there and the lack of affordable housing in that area. And also, this is returning to what this site always should have been, and not this exact parcel, but this community historically always had the potential and sometimes was used for this type of housing, and we turned away from that, and that was a terrible mistake. And so it's great to see that being corrected in this project. So thank you so much for all the work.
Any further comments or questions? Wonderful. I will just say, again, not easy, but worth the result makes it all worth it. So kudos on this project. All right, I'll entertain a motion and a second. We'll have a motion by Commissioner Vasquez, a second by Commissioner Jackson. Any further comments, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. And we will move next to item 109, which is the authorization to accept and expend state home key funds, City of San Diego and County of San Diego funds to support the acquisition and rehabilitation of Abbott Street Apartments, and to amend the Housing Commission's fiscal year 2024 budget, and to restate or terminate the affordability restrictions on that property. Emily? The Vice President, Emily Jacobs, and Vice President of Real Estate, Josh Hoffman, will present at this time. Emily and Josh, good to see you today.
Thanks. Good morning again, Chair and Commissioners. The item before you today is to request to authorize the Housing Commission to amend its fiscal year 2024 budget in the amount of $3.9 million in State of California Home Key Program funds to support the proposed development of the Abbott Street apartments, as well as authorize the Housing Commission to accept and expend the funds. Next slide. This slide provides the background about the Home Key program, which was included in the previous presentation on Ramada. Next slide. On May 12th, 2023, the Housing Commission Board authorized the Housing Commission to submit a joint application with Wakeland Abbott LLC to the California Department of Housing and Community Development's Home Key program for grant funds in accordance with the Notice of Funding Availability issued March 29th. On September 26, 2023, the state issued a Home Key Award letter for Abbott Street Apartments. On October 10, 2023, the state announced that it had awarded $3.9 million in Home Key funds to partially finance Abbott Street Apartments, a development to be owned by Wakeland Abbott LLC. Next slide. The Home Key Award will support the renovation of 13 affordable rental housing units in the Ocean Beach neighborhood of Council District 2 at 2147 Abbott Street. The units will be restricted to households experiencing chronic homelessness with incomes up to 30% of San Diego's area median income. The Housing Commission has committed 13 project-based vouchers to help residents pay their rent. The residents will be identified through referral from the coordinated entry system and would include individuals experiencing chronic homelessness. Next slide. Wakeland Abbott LLC completed extensive due diligence activities. This included, but is not limited to, an appraisal, a peer review appraisal, the County of San Diego review of the appraisal, a physical needs assessment, hazardous material testing, Phase 1 environmental report, market study, zoning conformance verification, and title review. A third-party review of the due diligence reports revealed no findings that would prevent the Housing Commission from collaborating with Wakeland on this project. Next slide. This table identifies the sources and uses of funds that the Abbott Street apartment projects. In addition to the state Home Key funds of $3.9 million, the city and county will each be contributing $1.465 million for a total of $6,830,000. Use of the funds are outlined here as well. They include the acquisition cost and other soft and hard costs to complete the renovation, including the appropriate reserves. The estimated total development cost per unit for the acquisition and rehabilitation is $525,000 a door. Next slide.
Through a memorandum of agreement with the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency, residents will receive supportive services. These services will support housing stabilization, enhance quality of life, and make connections to community resources, including but not limited to primary health needs, mental and behavioral health needs, and other community-based programs to best meet each resident's individual needs. In 1997, the Housing Commission restricted the 14 units at the property at that time to persons with income at or below 80% of San Diego's area median income, or AMI. The Housing Commission subsequently allowed the property to be reconfigured to provide 10 transitional housing units for victims of domestic violence. 9 of those units were restricted at or below 35% of AMI, and 1 unit was restricted at or below 50% of AMI. The affordability restrictions provided that if the property were no longer used as transitional housing, the restrictions would revert to 14 units at 80% of AMI. The proposed development would eliminate and replace those prior Housing Commission restrictions. Instead, the restrictions would require 13 units at the property to remain affordable to households experiencing chronic homelessness with income up to 30% of AMI. There will also be 1 unrestricted unit to serve as office and service space. This slide shows the project site in Ocean Beach. The Abbott Street property is very close to several amenities, all within walking distance, including a Target grocery, CVS pharmacy, several bus stops, the Ocean Beach Recreation Center and library, and Robb Field. Wakeland has executed a purchase and sale agreement for the property. Next steps include first draft of the state's standard agreement, which is expected in December of this year. Close of escrow is anticipated to be in February of 2024. Construction and rehabilitation of the property is estimated for February through August of 2024. The first residents are expected to move in by August of 2024. The change in the staff recommended actions that was discussed in the Ramada Inn presentation and the reasons for that change also apply to the proposed actions before you regarding Abbott Street Apartments. Staff recommends that this board take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the next two slides instead of recommending Housing Authority action. That concludes our presentation. We are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Emily and Josh. Commissioner Vasquez.
Yes, please note what was the reason.
Your inside voice is really.
Does staff know what why the city is recommending going up to, limiting the units to only 10 and having it be for transition instead of what the staff is recommending, which is the 13 with one identified for staff, the manager?
So the restrictions that are currently on the property are actually imposed by the San Diego Housing Commission through an initial arrangement with the Ocean Beach Community Development Corporation. And through time and the use of the property, those restrictions have changed from what the staff report indicates. What we're doing now is truing it up for the Home Key program. Right now, the property is vacant and ready for this use, which is a unicorn in the multifamily market. And so we're truing it up for the Home Key program for 55 years, up to 30% AMI. So we're truing it up.
Excellent. Just as a follow-up, I think that it's really important. I mean, this is the area of housing that we have the least amount of units for is 30%. So I appreciate the fact that we have identified this property and are willing to change the existing requirements and then preserve it for 55 years. So I'm in agreement with what staff recommends.
Vice Chair Klumpner.
Again, thank you. I'm such a fan of the Home Key program, despite all of the challenges that come with it. And I want to thank Wakeland. I think this is our first and only Home Key that is a partnership with.
So this would be our second,
Okay.
our last round with PATH.
Right.
The El Cerrito, which is actually, the Legos are building right now. It'll be done in February. Another
Okay.
exciting update to come.
Okay.
Wakeland is here if you have questions for Wakeland too.
Yeah, I don't think I do, but I very much do appreciate seeing Rebecca here on hand in case we do have questions. And, one of the things that I want to thank Wakeland and you and our staff for is, we don't often see projects with this small of a unit count. And there's a lot of economic reasons for that, but I've had many conversations with many developers of all types that basically say some version of we don't deal with anything under like 80 units, and I get the reasons for that, but I do like seeing that people are out there looking for opportunities wherever we can find them, regardless of whether they're at the scale they prefer to be dealing in, and opportunity is an opportunity, and I'm so glad that we're able to take this property and alter the use and bring it down to up to 30% AMI, which is a very low threshold. It's a population that we need every bed we can get. It's services that we desperately need, and whether it's 14 or 114, it's great that we're able to pursue it. So thank you to everybody that worked on this. I'm so glad this program is here. I'm so glad it worked out for this. As you have mentioned, we have allocations for our region that I think we have not exhausted, although part of that's due to the change. So thank you again, Wakeland, for helping us all get there, because we do have funding for our region, and the worst thing ever would be to let that funding go back to other places. So thank you.
All right. Any further comments, questions, commissioners? I will say this, that I want to say thank you publicly to the city and the county for the partnership. Wakeland for your partnership, and I think I should say this to the Ocean Beach community, and that we appreciate their partnership as well, because as Vice Chair Klempner said, we're searching for any size possible to add to the mix to help us better achieve the goal of getting people into housing. And, in closing, I'd say that, commissioners, with this vote, we will have approved 1,419 units today that will be restricted for 55 years. And when you think about Lisa Jones's comments in the very beginning, where we had 7,500 referrals and 1,600 were complete, we're striving to add more into the mix so we can get more referrals and more completions. And so HomeKey has been an important step in this process. And I want to thank you for all the work. And again, I know it is not easy when you're dealing with HomeKey. So with that, without any further comments, questions, I'll entertain a motion in a second. A motion by Commissioner Vasquez, second by Commissioner Jackson. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. No abstentions. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We are going to delay our workshop, our informational workshop on the Community Action Plan on Homelessness. We're going to make a few additions to that. And we are going to go immediately, we're going to adjourn the regular meeting, and we're going to go into closed session. And I want to say, again, for everybody who's here today and everybody watching, thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for your thank you to the entire team. What a phenomenal and fantastic year. You should all be proud. Everybody have a safe holiday season, because we won't see you for another meeting. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting and go into closed session.
Housing Commission met.
Hang on. All right, thumbs up? Yes. All right, this is Mitch Mitchell, Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. The board has concluded its closed session and is reconvening the meeting at 12:54 p.m. Housing Commission General Counsel Chuck Christensen will now announce the actions the board took in closed session.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The Housing Commission discussed the first case of Black Men and Women San Diego United versus the San Diego Housing Commission. That matter was informational only, no action was taken. With respect to the second case, NAACP versus San Diego Housing Commission, the commission by a vote of 4-0 gave direction to council concerning this matter. That concludes the matters that were discussed in a closed session.
Thank you, Chuck. And with that, this concludes the board's meeting today, and this meeting is adjourned at 12:55 p.m. Thank you very much.